Before the counterculture wave of the 1950s, before On the Road, before the Beats became legends of American literature, there was a group of students at Columbia University experimenting with poetry, philosophy, and rebellion. And at the center of it all was a young man named Lucien Carr. Carr's story isn't just about literature. It's about obsession, control, friendship, and marketing. A few years ago, I was bored and ended up randomly watching a movie called Kill Your Darlings. I already knew of the name Allen Ginsberg. I knew he was a poet, but I didn't really know the story behind him or the world he came from. That movie pulled me into something I did not expect, and at the middle of that story was someone I had never heard of before, Lucien Carr. Lucien Carr was born in 1925 in New York City and grew up in a wealthy intellectual environment. At around the age of 12, he met David Kammerer, a man about 14 years older than him. Kammerer was an English teacher and physical education instructor, and through earlier connections, he also knew writer William S. Burroughs. At first, Kammerer seemed charismatic, even described as the life of the body, but over time, his attachment to Carr became obsessive. In the years that followed, Kammerer repeatedly followed Carr from school to school. Wherever Carr went, he eventually appeared again. Carr and those close to him later described this attention as persistent and unwanted. Though accounts differ on how it was experienced at the time, what is clear is that the relationship became deeply unstable and psychologically consuming. Despite everything, the two continued to cross paths, a tense, distorted bond that never fully broke. That pressure eventually escalated. While studying at the University of Chicago, Carr attempted putting his head into a gas oven. He later dismissed it as a work of art, but the incident led to his hospitalization in a psychiatric ward. Afterward, his mother moved him to New York and enrolled him at Columbia University, hoping for a fresh start. But Kammerer followed again, quitting his job, moving to New York, and settling nearby, still close to Carr's life. At Columbia, Carr quickly became known as brilliant, restless, and socially magnetic. It was here he met Allen Ginsberg, and through mutual connections, including Eddie Parker, Carr also met Jack Kerouac. He introduced Kerouac to Ginsberg and both to William S. Burroughs, an older acquaintance already familiar with darker, more unconventional worlds. From these connections, a circle formed: Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, William S. Burroughs, and Lucien Carr. Carr was not the writer who would later define the movement, but he was the one who held its early world together. But in August 1944, everything would collapse. That night, Carr and Kammerer met near the Hudson River in Riverside Park. According to Carr's account, Kammerer made unwanted advances once again, and a struggle followed. That moment, Carr unfortunately ended up stabbing Kammerer. He then tied weights to Kammerer's body and threw it into the river. Later, Carr went to see William S. Burroughs, then Jack Kerouac, and told him what had happened. What followed became one of the strangest and darkest moments in American literary history. Kerouac and Burroughs were not yet famous writers, only young men trying to find direction. But Carr's confession pulled them into the aftermath. They were briefly arrested in connection with the disposal of evidence, though they avoided serious charges after agreeing to testify. Carr was charged with manslaughter and served time at Elmira Correctional Facility before being released a few years later. This event became a foundational myth for what would later be called the Beat Generation. The Beat writers were not just literary innovators. They were reacting to post-war America, to conformity, to consumer culture, to rigid morality, and to political anxiety. They sought spontaneity, spiritual exploration, sexual freedom, and artistic rebellion. Carr himself did not become a famous writer, but his actions deeply influenced the group around him. Allen Ginsberg, who later described Carr as someone who represented both brilliance and destruction, a symbol of youthful intensity pushed too far. Jack Kerouac transformed real events and people into fiction, helping shape the mythos of the Beats in books like On the Road. William S. Burroughs would go on to explore violence, control, and addiction in deeply experimental writing. Murder became part of their origin story, whether they wanted it or not. The Beat generation became one of the most influential literary moments of the 20th century. Their impact included not only breaking traditional writing structure, but also introducing jazz-like rhythm into prose, open discussion of sexuality and drugs, spiritual exploration influenced by Buddhism, inspiring later counterculture movements like 1960s hippies, punks, etc. Lucien Carr remains one of the most mysterious figures in American literature history. Not because he wrote the most famous books and vanished, but because his life became the spark that ignited a movement. The Beat generation was born in a publishing house or a lecture hall, but rather in friendship, rebellion, and tragedy. Carr himself later lived a relatively quiet life working for the Associated Press, avoiding the literary frame that defined his peers.